Welcome everyone to the Denver Sports Podcast, and we are jumping into this thing live and ready to go. Talking about biggest rookies in Colorado sports history. Is Bo Nix considered a top rookie for the Broncos? Who was the biggest Av to ever debut? And is Chase Dollander the future rookie that's going to save the Colorado Rockies? That's all coming up next right here on the Denver Sports Podcast. What's up, everyone? Welcome into the show. It's the Denver Sports Podcast, live on this Twisted Tuesday. It is a beautiful day outside. Bo Nix is 1 year older. Vibes are high in Denver.
Yes.
It's a good day.
It is a good day.
Happy birthday, Bo Nix.
Happy birthday, Bo Nix.
I know you were just probably celebrating his birthday for the last hour on the Broncos show.
Well, what happened was, have you ever had that thing where it's like you get 30 seconds into the podcast and somebody says like, "Oh, your sound is off"?
Oh, no. I mean, I have, but yeah.
So we had one of those days today. And so in that part was when I said happy birthday to Bo Nix.
Okay. So
and it wasn't until we had a role play segment later
Take
on
two,
where I was like, Todd, okay, pretend you're Bo Nix. And I was like, happy birthday. And I'm worried nobody got the joke that it was Bo's birthday because I had said that in the beginning when nobody could hear.
It's, it was there in spirit.
It was. It's not my fault.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Technical issues are always a hassle. Look, hey, today we're talking about rookies. Bo Nix, 1 year older, and it feels apropos to be able to discuss rookies across all of our Colorado sports. We're going to talk a lot about, the newest rookie that's kind of debuted recently for the Colorado Rockies. And for those of you who don't know, Colorado Rockies have a pretty good rookie that looks like he might make some waves in the sports world here. So we'll kind of break that down a little bit. But I want to start the show by asking a broad question. And I'm sure people will have lots of opinions on that. I'm sure you'll have an opinion on this. Who is the biggest rookie to ever make their debut in a Colorado uniform?
It's a good question. It's
a
really good question. It's a massive question.
Yeah.
And it's one of those questions where I feel like whatever you say winds up being wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Either way.
The chat always has something where it's well, you forgot about this guy. Or you forgot about that. And you're just like, there is always somebody else out there. I mean, in terms of just like most attention, John Elway is the first one that comes to mind. Because this is a guy who for years people knew he was like the number one pick. He's the greatest quarterback prospect ever. It's like when you have a Trevor Lawrence come out or an Andrew Luck come out. Yeah. Maybe even like a Caleb Williams come out. And when you have a quarterback that is seen in that way, I think that's tough to compete with.
It is. And it's just, I think the way it happened too for the Broncos, and you were talking to me before this because I didn't grow up a Broncos fan, so a lot of this information is secondary to me. But you were telling me that John Elway gets drafted, says that he doesn't want to play for Baltimore, and then ends up getting traded to Denver pretty much right away after he was drafted. The way that happens is so unique. I mean, that's a very unique situation. So it built the hype because it was kind of almost unexpected. It's like the Rockies getting the All-Star game that year, a couple years ago, when it was like random and out of the blue, and next thing you know, you're like, oh, the Rockies are hosting the All-Star game. Like, this is super cool. We're really hyped about this. John Elway felt like the same kind of vibe.
And you have Shedeur Sanders now, where you have like the rumors for a year where it's like, will Dion say he can't go somewhere, cannot?
Will his dad say no?
Imagine the drama of that actually happening. Like, of that actually happening. And then like the weeks leading up to the draft, everybody's like, well, Baltimore's not going to draft him, right? Like, you can't draft him.
Yeah, he's not going to play.
Or do you call his bluff? Yeah. And so you have like that whole like back and forth. And then you have the massive trade where it's like 5 guys who wind up going to Baltimore. And again, it's Elway, who is
a franchise quarterback.
Exactly. California, like cool, like prototypical quarterback, biggest arm anybody's ever seen, all these sorts of things. You throw in that drama, so it's catching attention. The one thing that I wonder about is just I don't want to say like the Broncos weren't as popular back then, but it's just a different world where now every year you're getting these massive ratings. A random NFL game, you're just getting, there's like 25 million people watching this right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that factors in because I think that still was just so big at the time. But that's the only doubt that I have that crosses my mind.
Well, and I also feel like John Elway built the Denver Broncos to being the franchise that they are today. So like at the time, you didn't know what that was going to be. Obviously, you never know what he's going to look like when you have a rookie debut. We didn't know what Bo Nix was going to be when he debuted for the Broncos. But there was excitement that you finally had a guy that could possibly get you to a place where you want to be as a franchise. Again, a franchise quarterback is just weighted so differently than like any other position across all sports. Like Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player in the world, and he carries the Nuggets in a heavy weight. But like he's not a franchise quarterback, right? Like if I don't know, Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson was the Broncos quarterback, like that just carries so much more weight for any team than in a sport like baseball or a sport like basketball.
Totally. And then when you look through the Broncos quarterbacks, I mean, Jay Cutler didn't make his debut till halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow didn't make his debut as a starter until deep into that season. So there also, when you look back through the quarterbacks, there aren't a bunch of them who actually played all the way through. And I think having that like week one, we've been waiting 6 months to see what this guy looks like. It's finally here. I think that piece adds something to it too. And I think that's why, to me, Elway is just in a tier of his own, probably.
Well, you could throw out the names Nathan McKinnon,
That's
Cale
a
McCarr,
big one.
Carmelo. We're going to talk about them later as the show
Cale
goes
too.
on. Yeah, I mean, because it's
Playoffs.
there is at least one or two guys for every team that you can lean on as like the biggest rookie debuts, biggest rookie seasons. There's also a lot of different metrics on how you would quantify like what is the biggest rookie in a Colorado wearing a Colorado uniform, like across our Colorado sports teams. Are we talking sheer hype? Are we talking sheer numbers? Are we talking about how that rookie season played out? Because you can go and you can look at a lot of Broncos and be like, Von Miller had a hell of a rookie season with the Denver Broncos, like from a numbers perspective. But like the hype wasn't as big as John Elway.
Exactly.
So like
and
there's
the hype
different
was
ways.
huge. It's just not John
It's
Elway.
just not John Elway. Yeah. And so the reason this topic even came up is because a guy that's near and dear to our hearts, because we're both Rockies fans, is Chase Dollander. And he's, what is it, number 8 overall prospect in MLB. He's the top prospect for the Rockies. A guy that many are saying could be very similar in shades to like Paul Skeens. And for us Rockies fans, that's just music to our ears because we're hoping for anything
finally
to give us something to root for, right? Like, I mean, we got a couple guys on the team, but we know that there's way too many holes on this Rockies lineup to really be that excited about as a whole right now. So if you can have a guy like Chase Dollander become your next big rookie, your John Elway, your Nolan Arenado, like those kind of guys, that causes a lot of hype and a lot of anticipation. So it bodes the question, and you and Dre were talking about this a little bit on social yesterday. Is Chase Dollander the biggest pitching prospect in Rockies history? And I'll ask that to you. Do you think he is?
He probably isn't. It's probably John Gray, Jeff Francis. I mean, those are the two you look back on. If you just look through like where the outlets had him ranked, you would have to say it's those guys. At the same time, though, there's no reason. I mean, the Denver Post, their big story on the sports page a couple days ago was, is Chase Dollander going to be the best pitcher in Rockies history? It's like those are the expectations that we have.
Big shoes to fill on that front.
And I think that you probably, if you're just going through this objectively, you say it's one of those two guys. He's not far behind though.
No.
And when you're talking prospects, especially for a guy who he's playing now, was he 22? You could totally see him surpassing that pretty quickly. What if he had spent another year in the minors like John Gray did?
Yeah.
What if he goes through and has like that?
He might.
It's possible.
I don't think he will because the
hope
Rockies
not.
are desperate.
I'm desperate.
I do. Give me something,
Totally.
anything, dude.
Totally.
There's a lot of similarities. John Gray and Chase Dollander both throwing upper 90s, 98 mile an hour fastballs. They're both were 22 when they made their rookie season kind of in. A debut is the wrong word because Chase Dollander technically hasn't debuted, but he will most likely debut this year. It's just it's just hard to compare. John Gray, there was a lot of hype there, but again, it was different. I think the fact that the Rockies are so bad right now and so desperately need a saving grace. They need their Nikola Jokic, their, Bo Nix even. Like, I'll go as far as to say that the Rockies need a guy like Bo Nix. And to have a pitcher in a place where pitching is notoriously impossible to compete at, if you can have a guy that is homegrown, drafted and developed, and he becomes a all-star level pitcher for your team, that holds so much value for your franchise. You can build around that. You can build on top of that. Like, we're putting this entire franchise on this dude's shoulders.
Oh, totally. Like, this is the vision for the future. It all hinges on him, which is a tough place to be as a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And I
no pressure, bud.
I almost think in baseball it's tougher just because you look at basketball, so many people say so many things about every single player. Like if you're the first overall pick in the NBA, if you're a top 10 pick, from the day you're drafted, you've got 1,000 tweets a day saying like, this guy's awesome, this guy sucks, this guy whatever. It's over and over and over again. Especially for a Rockies pitcher, there aren't that many voices.
No.
And so because of that, each one, you hear every single thing that's said because there's only those 10 a day where it's like, Dollander.
Yeah.
He's good. And as soon as it goes wrong, that's tough.
And people are talking about it nonstop. He's up there with the likes of Roki Sasaki from a expectation standpoint. I mean, a guy who's expected to do big things. MLB Pipeline did a ranking for Rockies' best pitching prospects. Did you see this? I don't know. Did you post this? I think you did.
I did post this one.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, because I saw this too, and then I thought I saw that you posted it. They have Jeff Francis, John Gray, Franklin Morales, Shin-Hui Sao.
Yep.
Christian Friedrich, then Chase Dollander.
Yeah.
That's interesting that he's...
I think he was actually tied with Friedrich.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I don't...
And they're all like within a spot of each other at the end.
I'm going for hype here. Chase Dollander on paper looks really good. Like he's up. He's definitely up there. But I'm going for hype at this point. Like the hype is just... I would make the argument that Chase Dollander is the biggest hyped prospect given the circumstances that the Rockies have ever seen.
Because again, these last 2 years have been awful. Year before that sucked too.
Yeah.
And really the 3 years before that, up and down, with the ups being like, oh, that was a bad year. And then you finally get back to like the 2 playoff appearances. So we've been through like this whole little thing, and it feels like last year should be kind of the bottom of that valley, those last 2 years, and you're hopefully starting to climb back up. And again, the vision is Chase Dollander. Like you go through and say, catcher, Hunter Goodman, Drew Romo, one of those guys maybe figure something out. Maybe. You go first base, Michael Toglia. We feel good about that. If Tolia's Tolia, we're set. Second base, we'll see what happens.
Estrada serviceable.
Exactly. Tovar at shortstop, though. If Tovar's Tovar, then we're good there. McMahon at third base. There's some timeline questions, but an all-star. Outfield, it's like, Brett and Doyle. We love that.
Yeah.
Dean looks awesome. I like Jordan Beck. It's like, if you get a couple of those guys to hit, you kind of have those pieces set. The Rockies haven't given out like a real contract in a couple years. Like maybe things go well, they do sign a free agent. And if Chase Dollander is a true ace, if he's the best pitcher they've had in, a decade, which I don't think is a crazy expectation because they've just, like Herman Marquez was awesome there for a minute. You would hope Dollander surpasses that. And if you have that ace in the rotation, you start to see how maybe you don't have all the pieces together, but you have you have a lot of
have
tickets.
An ace. I mean, that's
you have some pieces.
You have some pieces. The Rockies don't have an ace right now. Like
they haven't.
They have not had an ace since Herman Marquez. Herman Marquez is making his triumphant return back to baseball today, actually. But like, we don't know what he's going to get. The dude just had Tommy John surgery. Kyle Freeland's not your ace, not in my book. He's got to prove himself beyond that if he wants to be considered the ace.
He'll play like an ace for a month a year, though.
Yeah, I mean, You just don't know. Will Rymack.
Exactly.
That's the Rockies' curse. But so if you can find your legitimate ace, the defense is good. The Rockies' defense is good, although it's actually been the worst thing of spring training. Their defense is good. Their offense looks like it's getting better.
Yeah,
probably not going to be great, but it looks like it's getting better. And their bullpen looks really good. Yep. So if you can get like your starting pitching a little bit coming around, it's a lot of pressure to put on this guy, Chase Dollander. I do think I would say just based off the hype alone, he's got to be up there for top 1 or 2, biggest rookie debuts. And we couldn't even freaking watch it. That's the other thing. We just...
That was a killer.
The Rockies do, and maybe if I was to talk to the Rockies, they'd probably say, yeah, there was a legal thing that we, we didn't have rights to that game or whatever. Like, there was probably some really good excuse.
I know.
But like,
sucks though.
The Rockies are usually so good at doing that kind of thing well. Like the team might suck, but they really make the most out of the Charlie Blackmon retirement, Todd Helton, Hall of Fame.
We all want to see this guy.
You would think that their biggest prospect in the last 10 years is making his debut against a actual legitimate starting lineup for the Giants. I mean, he faced 3 full-on starters, 1 future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I want to freaking see that.
And there isn't like the pitch-by-pitch data either.
No.
Like you can't even see like,
dude,
it was a ball.
We were living vicariously through our intern Nate out there.
I know, and I'm like
spring training.
I'm like refreshing, like I've got Dollander searched on Twitter and I've got Rocky searched on Twitter. It's just like refresh,
dude.
refresh. Go back and forth. It's like,
me,
please say something. And eventually the Rockies posted on YouTube every pitch that he threw.
They did today. They did it today.
I know.
A day later.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. I finally get to watch. And it's
at this point, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a strikeout where the ball, the batter thinks he's going to get hit. Dumps.
Yeah.
Ball hits the bat of the batter on the way down. It's like,
Morales,
foul ball. Is that who it was? And it's like, like that adds some context to how this day went.
It does.
Like that's a good piece of
when you just see it on your screen, or like from a stats perspective, like it doesn't hit the same as when you're actually watching it happen. But I want to shift gears, move away from baseball for a moment. Let's talk Avs and Broncos when we come back. I want to ask the question: where does Bo Nix rank as a rookie quarterback in Broncos history? And also, who would the Avs and the Nuggets' top rookie debuts be? We'll get to that when we come back. Want to give a shout out to our friends, though, real quick, over at Breck Brew. Breck Brew is the official craft beer of DNVR and my personal favorite craft beer as well. I love myself some Avalanche Amber Ale. Although the Avalanche vibes are down right now, a couple losses, not been great. Our boy AJ in the chat, he knows best, as does Tiff.
He does know.
You're producing, but that doesn't mean that you can't not enjoy Avs games when you got an Avalanche Amber Ale. Truly my favorite amber beer on the market across any different brand. Breck Brew does the best. They got Mile High City for the Nuggets, Broncos, Country Pale Ale for Broncos. Haven't had a pale ale in a little bit, but that sounds really good now that the weather's looking nice too. Like, pale ale, that sounds good. Funslinger, good company hard seltzer. If you're not into the beer side of things and you want to check out their hard seltzer, I know Marissa, my wife, she's not a huge beer person, but she loves their good company hard seltzer. Yeah, it's the best. You can't go wrong with Breck Brew. So check them out. Be sure to head over to their facilities. They've got incredible stuff going on there, and they've got a really cool giveaway right now. The Breck Brew Ice Deck giveaway, 2 VIP tickets on the glass, complimentary food and drink, March 28th versus the St. Louis Blues. breckbrew.com/ice deck to enter. Again, that's breckbrew.com/ice deck to enter. Link will also be in the show notes. Shout out to Breck Brew. Also got to give some love to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe every single sport should be epic, and every single sport is epic right now. It's almost my favorite time of the year. It's a time in which we almost have baseball, basketball, and hockey. If you could throw football in there, it would be, the best thing in the world. But it's a great time to get into the sports betting world if you're not already. Bet365 has you covered. Use code DNVR365. Deposit $10. Choose between either a bet and get offer by placing a bet of $5 or more and getting $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet of up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets. They also, we got coming up here, since baseball season's right around the corner, MLB early payout is coming back with Bet365. So basically what that is you're a winner if your team goes up by 5 runs. With an instant payout. Parlay and same game parlay selections will also be marked as winners. So it's good stuff. And I know I'm getting ready to get into the college basketball betting world as well. Yeah. March Madness is not too far away.
I'd love that. Those Rockies bets, they go up by 5, 6, 7, and then that lead goes away quickly. So the insurance is nice.
Be careful on those ones for sure. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Are you a big Rockies sports betting guy? Like, because I like Spencer's on our show on Friday, and he loves betting against the Rockies late into the innings because he knows, and the stats just show, like, late in the innings, the Rockies are the worst team in baseball when it comes to that kind of stuff. Are you big?
The bet on them
probably
not
the
to be.
second closest to that.
There's the reason the odds are down there. I'm going to bet on them to.
I think it will be better. I think they will definitely be better than. I think it's going to be better than 100 losses this year, just simply by the fact that they have better pitching out of the bullpen. Like you're not going to be blowing as many games in the ninth inning.
I had the worst thought I've ever thought yesterday, and I was able to get rid of it quickly, but it came to mind, and like I feel sick, and I don't even want to say this, but it crossed my mind. What if Chris Bryant is like a decent baseball player? It's like, no, you can't even, there's no way it's not going to like, no, and you have to get that out. But just for a second, I was like, oh,
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Just here's my take on the Chris Bryant thing.
Brush my teeth after saying that.
Then we'll get back to everything. But the Chris Bryant thing is, if he can be a guy who gets on base for the Rockies out of that DH slot, I'm fine with that. Like, you're paying him too much. I just don't like throwing him away.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know.
If it comes to a point where like he is that bad, and you
I
really
do think they will move on from him.
And you really are like, Hunter Goodman's playing well. You can't justify a catch. You want him to get some DH at bats. Like, sure. Then you pull the trigger. But for now, it's like it's 3 more years.
Well, our guy Nate, who's in the chat with us today, he did put together a pretty good piece on Chris Bryant that we're gonna publish later this week.
Good timing.
Yeah, it is good timing.
I'm trying to get this thought out of my head.
It's a storyline that everyone's thinking of just because the Rockies are paying him millions of dollars to pretty much get hurt most of the year. So we'll definitely circle back to that as things go. But I wanted to recap on that last question that I had asked. Where does Bo Nix rank as a rookie quarterback in Broncos history? Because you talked about John Elway. Obviously, he's the GOAT. You talk about Von Miller. You talk about, you can go through and look at like other guys on that list. Where does Bo Nix rank among them? Because we came in to this season with Bo Nix, kind of the hype wasn't really there. It was a lot of like, how is this guy going to be our guy? Like, we don't even know if he's going to start type of thing, to then ended up being Bo Nix is the guy that brings you to the playoffs for the first time. So it ends up going through, it ended up working out. But where do you think he ranks after seeing his first season on the rookie category?
So cop-out answer, it depends. I think you start here. If you're just going by stats and results, he's the best rookie quarterback the Broncos have ever had.
Because John Elway struggled in his rookie year.
Exactly. And especially struggled when you look at stats.
Yeah.
Because again, the game just changes so much. Like, not only was like the 80s, guys are completing less than 60% of their passes in general. It's still in the 90s, I think they were. But even you get to like Jay Cutler, it's like the 20-something touchdowns, 14 whatever interceptions. Like, it really did skew a lot in the past like 10, 15 years. And so if you're just going pure stats, that's the way you have to go. But I also think one of the questions we had a lot of fun with when we were at the Super Bowl was just asking random media people, if you had to start a team today, would you rather have Bo Nix or Caleb Williams?
Yeah.
Because again, like a year ago, it's obviously Caleb Williams. Have we seen enough to be making those sorts of changes and say, like, actually it's this? And I think it's the same conversation with John, where, let's see, I pulled it up. That's Bo. 1,600 yards, completed less than half his passes, 14 interceptions, 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But you still knew at the time it was John Elway. I don't know.
Well, I mean, again, making a Rockies comparison here, Chase Dollander gave up a home run in his debut, but he also struck out a Hall of Famer and his first batter that he ever faced. So you see the home run and you're like, damn, okay, gave up a home run. That sucks. He gave it up to a really good player, by the way, in Jung-Hoo Lee. But also you're like, the foundation's there. Like, he's a guy who's going to strike out 9 batters a game when he's in his prime, minimum. And so you see that and you say, there's still room to grow, but this guy's still a stud. The hype is still there. Like, I'm not coming away from this saying, oh my God, he gave up a home run. Like, what are we going to do? John Elway, you got through his rookie season, and Broncos fans aren't freaking out by that, right?
Totally.
So Bo Nix, he, at least like you said, from a statistics standpoint, like he went above all expectations, and everyone, we came away from that saying, now having the question, where does Bo Nix, his season, rank among rookie quarterbacks? Because it was really freaking good.
Totally. And that's where again, like there's just an arc to the way these things go. And I think you go back to John Elway and say, okay, after his first season, it was tough. His second year, though, again, the numbers don't jump off the page. With just touchdowns and interceptions, 18 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, completes 56% of his passes. Yeah. Those aren't great, but the team is winning. So you're 12-2. The next year you go 11-5.
And him within the final 2 minutes of each game, you know, I mean, it's like his clutch moments were huge.
And that's where we're going. Is the next year, 85, more interceptions than touchdowns, you go 11-5. But then 1986, you have his first Pro Bowl appearance. The numbers not remarkably better than they had been in the past, but you finish it off with the drive.
Yeah.
And so you have that moment, and that's when Broncos fans said, oh, this is the guy. There's no more like, I don't know, does he have it? Does he not have it? It's okay, we're seeing some things. Year 4, wait, what did this guy just do? This guy, we're riding with him for forever. And then from then on, the standards kind of change. And I think you see that arc with whoever you look at, whether it's like Josh Allen, obviously very extremely bad to very good, and now there's no Bills fan who'd want to get rid of him.
Sure.
Bo, the starting point is so high that really you have your rookie contract, you have those 4 years to decide what a guy is. And year 1, he set the bar high, and he might only need to go from like here to have everybody say, this is the guy who we want to ride with for the next decade.
Totally.
But it's just making sure that you take these couple more steps to get to that point. And just having, again, probably will never have a moment like the drive because they're like 2 quarters more to ever than ever. Yeah. Like Tom Brady has some of those. Patrick Mahomes, it's not a long list of guys who've done that, but you just have something like that where it flips and you say, he really is this good.
And there were some plays that Bo Nix made last year that felt like that. There were some passes to Mims. There was, some catches from Sutton, like where you were just like
Troy Franklin to start the playoff game.
Totally.
Like, wait,
and you were like, whoa,
this
dude.
Out now?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally. That's where things change. Again, you look at Chase Dollander and you say, okay, you gave up a home run to Jung Hoo Lee, but you struck out Matt Chapman and you struck out Lamont Wade Jr. Like one of those guys is a future Hall of Famer, and you got another strikeout in the next inning. And part of that is you also didn't give up a run. Like you didn't give up a run after that. I mean, you pitched 2 innings and you only give up the home run. Like you
4.5 ERA. Not the end of the world.
In 2 innings.
2 innings. There you go.
Totally.
It's not, results weren't bad. There's enough to build off of.
And that's the Bo Nix vibe. Like it feels like, yes, there's room to improve. He made some rookie mistakes, but the foundation is there. I'm still hyped about it. We're still good. Are there, switching gears here a little, but keeping with the Broncos, are there rookies that we were over the wall hyped about that ended up completely flopping?
It's weird because they usually aren't.
Like, who would those guys be?
Like I think of like a Jarvis Moss, who was a defensive end out of Florida, who was awesome. That's the controversial one. We'll get there. Like, there's some of those guys who you look at and say like, okay, you didn't pan out, but also like pick 24 playing defensive end. It's not like if John Elway had flopped,
Sure.
So again, Tebow's the one that really does stand out because it's so hard to put him in a box.
Yeah.
It's so hard to put him in a box.
Well, and the hype was there. Tim Tebow, again, it had the emotional pull behind it that others don't have. You can look at the numbers of a guy and be like, this guy on paper looks really good, and we're excited to see him on paper. There's a difference when you look at what Tim Tebow did in college and the hype that he had coming into the Broncos. Totally. And also the quarterback, coming away from Peyton Manning and John Elway and, like that kind of history, like that. It's tough. Tim Tebow, I think the expectations were just so high and it just never panned out.
And I mean, to his credit, he ended the longest playoff drought in the Broncos history since they first made a playoff spot. Because they sucked at the beginning. When they finally made it, though, from then on, they never had a playoff drought longer than the 5 years before Tebow got him back. And so that's one of those things where, similar to Bo Nix, how do you weight that? Because a lot of, especially in Denver, where we have very high standards. Things have gone very well for us sports-wise, and we expect that to continue. The fact that he didn't bring us a Super Bowl as a first-round pick in some ways means, disappointment. Same thing, Jay Cutler, disappointment.
Yeah.
And sometimes those little wins, it's hard to say, especially now that we're in like the rings culture era. It's like he did do something. He reset that culture. You ask Von Miller what he did, especially combined with Brian Dawkins in terms of like leadership and like vibes, changing the culture. I think that he really helped to set the table for Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And obviously made it so that Peyton was like, this might be a place to consider. Look what Tim Tebow just got into the playoffs. Think about what I can do. But also just flipping that switch from a 4-12 season to having a little bit of belief, having some confidence.
Yeah.
There is value there, but
Depends on how you rate him.
exactly. As a first-round quarterback, though, gone after what? Was that 2 years?
It was, yeah.
That's
hard.
that's an F. That's an F.
It's hard to
that's
argue
not what
that,
you're
man.
looking for. Yeah.
It's hard to stand on that hill for sure. After the break, though, I want to talk about Avs and Nuggets because there's some pretty big rookies, especially with the Avs side of things, that we can dive into here in just a moment. So that's more on that coming up next. All right, it's that time of year, folks. It's time for some events. And not only just events. I mean, we've got a pretty good one coming up in, 3 days? 3 days for the Avs, February 28th. Is that sold out, Tiff?
Not quite.
Not sold out yet. Okay, so then we're going to promote this as well. February 28th, 3 days. You still have time. Sweet takeover. Avalanche versus the Minnesota Wild. That's going to be incredible. All the vibes are going to be there. Good stuff. Good times. Be sure to head over to thednvr.com/events to check that one out. And the other one we just kind of put on the schedule. It is officially available. Is the Rockies takeover, Sweet Takeover. I believe it's June 9th.
Okay.
It's on our events calendar,
Day before
thednvr.com/events.
my sister's birthday.
It's versus the Mets, so you're going to see Juan Soto. It's Hawaiian T-shirt giveaway.
Juan Soto,
in a
my
suite.
sister.
Juan Soto, bro.
It's
Come
Juan
on.
Soto.
Yeah, it's Juan
It's Juan
Soto. I
Soto.
mean, we love your sister, but
Yeah.
no, not.
I mean, we love one.
We love Juan Soto.
Here's my thing. I'm toxic
I don't
about
even
sports.
like Juan Soto, but I
Exactly.
like watching him play.
Yeah,
Like I will
it's
go
like,
to a game that he's
If
playing.
it gives me an excuse to watch the Rockies, sure.
Yeah, and God forbid, a good pitcher pitches in that game or someone, like. I mean,
Chase Dollander.
you're facing Juan Soto in June.
Somebody's got to be pitching.
Someone's gonna be throwing. No, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're also gonna be doing this thing, and this hasn't been officially determined yet, but kind of like a takeover series where we all meet up at the rooftop, different beats. Broncos, Nuggets, Avs, Rockies guys. Like we all come together, just go to the rooftop before a handful of games. And we just all have some drinks and have good vibes.
So I was thinking we need to do opening day.
We are doing opening day.
We're all doing opening day, but I think
It's a day off. It is a company holiday.
And we need to convince the company to just buy 15 tickets. Maybe we
go to
we all
opening day?
buy half price and we all sit together and have a good time.
It is literally a company holiday, so you might be in.
They're $100 each. If you get the cost down to $50,
I think we could convince them to get us a suite.
I agree. Although the suites
Opening day would be
very expensive.
I mean, half the company's going to the game anyway. Why
agree,
not make it a
yes.
fun company event? Everybody sit together.
I mean, we already. So just a preview on stuff. RK and RC and. They're going to be in the crowd, getting talking to fans, getting social content, stuff like that. I'm going to be down on the field talking to players. It's a whole thing. The opening day thing is going to be.
It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be awesome, and we've got we're. I don't know if it's going to be the Ice House this year or a different spot, but we're going to be doing some live stuff beforehand.
Yeah, that is a convenience.
I heard Dre.
You can go to my place.
I heard Dre. Yeah, we could because you live right
5
across
minute
the
walk.
street.
Yeah, I could just buy a bunch of beers. We got 1,000 square feet. How many employees we have?
1,000 square feet.
30, 40?
Easy, dude. That's
Easy.
that's like a college party at the University of Montana right there.
We
house party.
had over 100 for a Halloween party. Still a highlight of my life.
Like a
Good
600
Lord.
square foot dorm room.
And then the
I love
next
it.
day, we had all 4 TVs in the living room because I had 3 roommates. So we played 2v2 Rocket League, best of 5. Losers had to go clean up the puke in the laundry room.
Wow. On Rocket League, no less.
One
My
in
God.
overtime, game 5.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Don't let that ball touch the ground, man.
College was a time.
What a time.
Yeah.
Head over to dnvr.com/events for more on that. Also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Empire Today. If you are getting ready for summer, as we all are, because it's 70 degrees outside, you got to make sure you get some new floors in your living space, house, office, whatever it is. Go to Empire Today and they will take care of you when you go to get your new floors. I know my wife and I, I've said this before, we're still in the process of getting, looking at moving into a new house. And one of the things we got to do is replace our floors. And Empire Today, they are incredible to work with. They've got great quality, speed, service, all the things you would hope for when you go work with a company like that. And they make sure that not only I'm going to like it, but my wife is going to like it because that's really all that matters. So they make sure that they take care of all of your needs over there with your flooring necessities. So be sure to schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when you use promo code DNVR. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details. All right, back here on the Denver Sports Podcast, we're talking Avs and Nuggets, biggest rookies in Colorado sports history. We already talked about John Elway with the Broncos. We already talked about John Gray and/or Chase Dollander with the Rockies. Although there's some other rookies that you could probably throw in that mix, aside from pitchers on the rookie side of things.
Like why am I blanking on his name? Went to the Red Sox. Trevor Story.
Yeah.
The home runs and like the
in his early, Trevor Story was huge.
Like 8 home runs in the first 7 games or something like that.
Yeah, like there's been some hype around different spots, but let's start with the Avs because Tiff's producing our show and she's our resident Av in house. I'll ask you though first, Hank, for you, just your personal experience with the Avs. Who do you think was the biggest rookie debut and/or rookie season that you can remember from an Avs player?
So I went with McKinnon.
Okay.
But we'll get to Kale.
Okay.
Making a debut in the playoffs.
You picked McKinnon, I got Kale. Don't you worry.
All right.
So McKinnon,
got our grounds covered.
So you remember the Avs really earned McKinnon coming off like the worst season ever. But the weird thing about McKinnon's debut is that they also had Patrick Waugh. Mm-hmm. And so it was also his debut as the head coach. And so you kind of have like these two competing storylines.
True.
That's the one that ends. They win like 6-1 against Vancouver, whatever, the first game. And Patrick Waugh is like, he's yelling at players, yelling at the coach. He's like the board that divides the two benches. He's like toppling it over. Yeah. And like, while McKinnon was awesome, that is what I remember that game for. You know, like I came for McKinnon. I remember like, oh, Patrick Waugh's a psycho.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Confirmed.
And so that's the only hesitation. But you go through, I mean, like that was just such a successful season. Like they were not supposed to be a good team, wind up going to the playoffs a year after the worst season they've ever had.
Rockies.
Again, like McKinnon's a big part of that.
Yeah.
Hey, there's something there.
I'm telling you,
there's
man. I'm drawing connections here without saying it. I'm drawing connections without saying it. Tiff, you had Kale. Why Kale?
I picked Kale because Kale has a special place in my heart.
Of course.
Well, there we go.
all of us agree.
No. I think very
the
similar to like McKinnon. They kind of like earned Kale for a little bit. They'd kind of been like bottom feeder, not really great, but they had these couple superstars on the team. That his first game was a playoff game. And his first goal was a playoff game goal against Calgary, and it was just the coolest thing ever.
That does have some weight.
It was.
That does have some weight. The playoff debut is on another. It is. Can you imagine the Rockies make it to the playoffs?
It's like,
can I
here
imagine?
Comes Dollander.
And here comes Dollander.
Young Keel's been incredible. This is like we're bringing Young Keel Fernandez up. Boom, bomb in the first inning,
and then Dollander steps out on the mound or something. You know, like that's just it's on another level. So Cale Makar, I like that.
Robert
McKinnon's just on another level as a player. So I think people put weight on McKinnon because you're like, he was a rookie and look at who he became. Like he became just the most insane hockey player ever right now. Yeah. And Makar is too, but you know, McKinnon's still on another level.
He is. I mean, MVP. I think being the first overall pick is also big. Because you're like, okay, first overall pick, they get McKinnon. Because again, he's one of those guys. Like he wasn't a McDavid type prospect.
Only first overall pick that we have in all of our sports teams.
Oh, one of those other Avs, I thought.
Is there another Avs number 1 overall pick?
Not that we currently have it.
And Rockies have never had one. Broncos have never had one.
Because Kale was 4.
The Nuggets have never had one. So I think Nathan McKinnon is the only number 1 overall pick that we've ever had in Colorado sports history.
Are they eligible next year for the
No. The Rockies are ineligible for ever getting that.
Might as well be good.
Yeah.
I'm going to double check on the Avs because I kind of thought there was another, but I could be.
But I agree,
Landy was 2, Duchesne was 3, Kale and Bo were 4. Those are the only top 10 picks.
Yep. So but that does hold weight. Like that does carry a lot of ground if you are the number 1 overall pick, and then you end up being really freaking good.
Yes.
But I think from a hype perspective, I agree with Tiff. Kale has he came in the playoffs, he scored a goal.
I forgot about the Hobie Baker Award too. He won that literally like the day before.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the other thing is like, well, Nate had that first overall pick. You have the 4 months or whatever it is before the season starts. You're like, oh, this is awesome. And really you have like the 7 months where you know who you're going to get because it's Nathan McKinnon number 1. Kale, we had to wait so long to finally see him play hockey. It took forever. Like I remember when he decided to go back to college that last year and you're like, well, it looks like we're waiting again. And then he shows up for the playoffs that year and you're like, oh, this is awesome. So while I think the hype for Nate, it was, I think there was more hype there. It just burned a little bit faster. Cale, just that wait for so long to finally see him and all the hype and knowing that he's getting better and you hear all these rumors about him, that might balance it out.
Yeah, well, and who's that kid that debuted this year? It's not on the Avs, obviously, but he's like super young, huge player. You're gonna say
Matt Rempe?
What?
Matt Rempe?
No, that doesn't sound right.
Okay. You
Connor
said
Bedard?
huge.
Connor
You said
Bedard.
huge.
Yeah,
Oh,
Connor
okay.
Bedard. I'm gonna know it the minute you say it. Connor Bedard. Like
was thinking
there
big.
is just there was this overall excitement for Connor Bedard and and to have that the weight of that behind it. I do think that plays a lot when you have this rookie debate. Like it's there are guys that look good on paper and just and end up having a really good career, but it depends on the circumstances that surround that. So with that in mind, if you switch gears to the Nuggets now, who's the Nuggets' biggest rookie debut /season?
Carmelo.
It's got to be Carmelo.
And this is one
I
of
don't
those.
think the Nuggets have had a lot of those. They haven't had a lot of those.
No,
like,
because
it's
even
kind
like
of been just Carmelo.
Jokic was like the build. It wasn't like
We were all
you've got
so
a guy
hesitant.
who might save you and like you're gonna find out, which is what Carmelo was. And he was, and I remember he was 2003. I was born in 97, so I was like 6. I remember going to basketball practice like first grade, second grade, every day wearing my Carmelo jersey.
Sure.
Like I was fighting with people saying he was better than LeBron. And like you look at you look at the numbers rookie year, Carmelo's numbers were better, but LeBron is LeBron, so he actually gets the award for it.
It's an impressive battle you chose to take there.
And that's one of my proudest moments as like a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
I knew that.
You knew then that you were destined to.
That first
have
year,
that
Melo
debate.
was better. After that, things shifted. But yeah, it's Melo. And again, like he was.
It is crazy to me still that like LeBron has just played for so damn long.
Yeah.
Like when you really think about it like that, when you're like, oh yeah, I was this old when LeBron was starting out. Yeah.
It's like my first memories of basketball were like him starting. I'm an old man now, and he's been playing my entire life.
You are an old man. We were just talking about that. You're having knee problems. And
Yeah, well, I know because it's one of those things. So, like for the past couple of years, there was a stretch where for like 6 months I was riding an exercise bike every day, and like
look at you.
It was around the time the second Space Jam came out because I remember I was like, oh, I better watch the first one because I'd never seen it before. It's like sit on the exercise bike, do like 90 minutes of that. It's good for you. Next thing you know, my knee is just like generally sore. I went skiing
you're
last
90 years
weekend.
old. Yeah.
There's just like this big bruise on the top of it, and you're just like, this is. Yeah.
You are just you're just an old man.
I'm old. Just
Nate,
like LeBron.
Nate makes an interesting point in the chat. He says technically John Elway was number 1
Yes.
overall. You are
He was.
correct. However, it was not from the Broncos that he was drafted, although he never played a game for the Baltimore Colts back in 1983. He ended up in a Broncos uniform in 1984. And the Broncos gave up the first round draft pick in 1984 for him, which was obviously the good move.
Also, whenever AJ's in the chat, I'm just waiting for him to be like, oh, you forgot this guy. So please tell us, AJ, if we're missing something.
Oh, so I asked Avs chat earlier,
Oh, did you?
and they said Tange, Hayduk,
Yeah,
and
Hayduk.
Drury for Eric.
Okay, I
Eric
didn't
put
think of
all of
Drury.
them.
For flop, is there an Avs player that sticks
I was gonna
out?
say
Hyped in the rookie, but then flopped.
AJ brought up Duchesne in his comment, and I think that is like we were talking before show. Like I think that's like a flop for the Avs for sure. Like he's doing what he wants to do, and like whatever teams he thinks he can be successful for. But like as far as like being his rookie year as an Av, I think that's a flop.
Yeah,
Probably.
Well, and that can be. Both of those can be true. There can be hype for that rookie and them still be a flop and still be a decent player throughout their career. I mean, again, look at I'm not saying he's a flop for the Rockies, but like look at Trevor Story. Like he didn't work out for the Rockies, but he's still playing in his career. He's playing in Boston.
Like Nolan Jones.
Jones.
Like I was really excited. He broke my heart. I don't think he's going to be good, but I think when the Rockies trade him, he's going to be good somewhere else. So there's a little bit of foresight going on there, but it's the same thing.
That's such a sad mindset you have there, man.
I'm in a dark spot.
Yeah, well,
With him.
you and the Rockies fan base.
And the crazy thing is, it's like every other player I'm totally hyped about.
Yeah,
except for Nolan.
But
luckily,
give
other
him
people
some
are
time,
hyped.
man.
He has
Give
plenty
him
of
some
hype.
time. I know.
It is like
hard.
what, he's like 0 for 6 now.
He's over 7. Over 7 with 3 Ks.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew he's cooked.
Give him
over
some time.
7.
Give him some time. I will say what makes that feel worse most likely is the fact that there are some really good prospects or guys that look really good coming out of the outfield. Like Zach Veen, the bat flip of the freaking century, dude. That was nuts.
And you can just tell that he's like electric.
He looks like a blast.
Everything he does, you're just like, you just did that in the coolest way possible. If you're even like, you don't need to be an all-star, but if you're like pushing that level, everybody's going to be wearing your jersey because you are awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I just, the excitement factor, like I'm so locked in on that with the Rockies because the Rockies have been so boring as a team for the last few years that like, if you can give me exciting baseball, I'm fine with that. Like I don't need you to make it to the playoffs tomorrow. I just need you to give me something fun and then make it to the playoffs, in a couple years. Like we need to get there eventually. But
be nice.
For now, let's set the bar realistically to a place where like, let's just have some fun. Let the kids play and have some fun. I wrote an article about that a while ago when they signed Jeffrey Yan, the guy who like jumps 8 feet into the air when he strikes out players. Never stepped foot on a big league mound in his entire career yet. I mean, he's young kid. But it's the idea that like you need that kind of energy on a baseball diamond. Like you need that for a team like the Rockies that just gets so down in the dumps. The optics are just an issue. Like it's all of that kind of stuff. So it's a whole process there. But hey, got to take our last break of the show. But after this break, I asked the question, is there a world in which Chase Dollander could be considered for Rookie of the Year? I tell you why, if that's going to happen, it's not going to happen next year. All right. Back here on the Denver Sports Podcast, Christian Saez, Henry Chisholm, and we're talking about rookies today. So, of course, the big rookie that's on our minds as of now, since it's baseball season, is Chase Dollander. And he's technically considered a rookie because he's playing in spring training right now. However, baseball has weird classifications on who's a rookie, who's not, what the timing of that looks like. So I asked the question before break, is there a world in which Chase Dollander is considered for Rookie of the Year? I think yes. I mean, if he plays the way we all hope he is, our expectations are that he's going to be our version of Paul Skeens.
He should be in the conversation.
He should be in the conversation. I don't think it's going to happen next year or this year, I should say this summer, because I think the Rockies are going to hold out on him until after he's through with his rookie eligibility window. I think they're going to wait on him till later in the summer. And I kind of hate to say that.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I think the Rockies care more about his rookie eligibility than the fans do, because there is money that comes along with that. There's a legal side of things that contract stuff. Like there is that element, when you're looking at a guy that you hope to be your future franchise pitcher and you expect that eventually one day you're going to pay him, or that, you're going to, hopefully pay him. You want to elongate that rookie eligibility as long as possible so you can get him for as cheap as possible. Do you know what the rookie cutoff is?
I was just looking. So to be eligible for a rookie award, you're ineligible if you pitched more than 50 innings in a previous season, which is, if you're going 6 innings, that'd be 8.3. So basically 9 6-inning outings, you'd be ineligible the next year. And I think for contracts, it's more so like, it winds up being like you have to sit out the first month of the year. Mm-hmm. So there is that window where it's like, if they call him up between May and June, then you won't be eligible next year. You might not pitch enough this year to win the award, though.
When did Paul Skeens debut? He debuted.
It was early.
But it
probably
wasn't
right at that cutoff.
But I was gonna say, but it wasn't right off the bat. Like it wasn't. It's not like opening day came and Paul Skeens was on in the roster. Like it was early.
This is where Nate the intern needs to show he's.
Yeah, I know. Wait, you gotta do the research for
exactly.
us.
Come on, you know this.
We were not prepared for this side of the research. But I think there's a world in which Chase Dollander debuts this year. I just don't know if they're going to go all in on him early enough. And you're right. Maybe the contract side of things. Maybe that's all they care about. Maybe they just wait a month and then they put him in there. To be honest, I think it depends on how bad the Rockies are to start the year. If the Rockies are a serviceable team, that's going to be a good thing for us fans. We're going to, hopefully be enjoying decent baseball, and a bad thing for the rookie guys, because that means they're going to probably hold off on them. Mm-hmm. If the Rockies suck straight out of the gate, okay, well, now you might be seeing Chase Dollander in a Rockies uniform by May.
So you earn a year of service time if you're on a major league roster for at least 172 days.
Okay.
So in theory, what do they do? It's like 182 games in like 215 days.
Dude, there's no way I'm doing the math on this right now. My brain is not built for that.
So I would guess you have to sit like 40 days. You're out the first month and a week, 5 weeks, call it.
Jeez.
So you start beginning of April, second week of May, you could come up.
Yeah.
And so what? You get 6 years of team control, but if you wait that extra month plus, you essentially get a seventh.
And he's 22, so like you've got
True.
plenty of time. You've got plenty of time.
You know, we're really getting ahead of ourselves, but you know, if he plays pretty well, you do the Tovar thing, and all of a sudden, like the Rockies turn that like 7 years of control if you wait to bring him up a little bit into 10 years of control with Tovar by extending him early and guaranteeing a bunch of money. And
do you think Brenton Doyle's going to get an extension anytime soon?
I would extend him.
I know
it's
you
also,
would. He's 26,
as
27.
I just can't put myself in the shoes of a somehow like poor billionaire. As crazy as that sounds, or it's like, yes, the Monforts have so much.
Catch-22 you got going on there.
Exactly. I just don't know what that all feels like, where it's like, can I be giving this money away when I feel like for some reason I'm broke?
There is more risk associated with it, and this is what I was trying to say when I did a show of, you know, are the Dodgers ruining baseball? And you know, my take is no, they're not. We'll kind of wait and see if they win the World Series. If they win the World Series, that becomes a little amplified.
Sure does.
But you know, there's a difference between owners spending money with the Dodgers and an owner spending money with the Rockies or the White Sox or a team like that, because the Dodgers can go and defer all of this money and they can, you know, have all this money in the bank account. There's a bunch of legal side of things to like where you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank account already, even if it's deferred. But they can do that because they print money. Like they have unlimited reoccurring income forever. The Rockies are showing right now that they're losing money every year. You know, I mean, I don't mean losing money in a profit standpoint, but their budget has to go down because their TV revenue is not coming in.
They were getting
high.
$57 million a year from the revenue.
Yeah, so
for the
like,
TV, local TV.
You're not like people always say, oh, the Rockies make so much money because of their stadium or whatever, and I would argue that they do make money because of their stadium, but it's not enough where you can go and spend like the Dodgers or spend like the Cubs or the Phillies or, you know, the bigger teams. So you have to be much more calculated in that. Brenton Doyle is 27 years old, a stud. You want to keep him here, but he doesn't need an extension yet. And so from a business standpoint, if you take the emotions out of it, Brenton Doyle can't go anywhere, and at least not this year. And so why would the Rockies pay him?
I think the big thing is, and I don't know exactly how long his contract goes, but like the Tovar thing, for example, it's after he has like his 2.5 years he's played. 2.5, I believe. And so the idea is that, okay, we've got him cheap for the first 6.5, you call it. After that, he's getting his market value, which is 20 million or 30 million or 40 million. Like, we don't know how good he is. By guaranteeing that year of money this far in advance, there's so many things that could go wrong on his end that he'll take like 90% of what he expects to get there.
Oh yeah, totally.
And guarantee it. And so you add those kind of two, I think with him, it's those 3 years on at probably slightly below that market value. And because of that, you get to kind of average that out. Like the contract still escalates every year, but you can kind of balance it out a little bit more so it doesn't feel like such a big hit at the time. And then also it's a bet on him. Well, whereas if right now you think his market value is going to be $30 million, he played really well last year. Yeah. That deal looks better now because he played well. And if you're willing to take that risk and bet on your own guys, you can make it make sense for everybody. Because he still hits the market at 30 again.
He does. And the other comparison I'd make is, you know, if let's say you win the lottery. You win the $100 million lottery. You get two options when you win the lottery. You can either take out a greater sum of that amount in cash, in payments that go over the course of like 10 years or 15 years or something like that. So you get like pretty much everything you won in payments that are spread out throughout 15 years, or you get a lesser version of that, but it's guaranteed in cash. You get that straight to your bank account. That's pretty much what Tovar did, where he said, look, I don't know, you know, there's just too many variables of what could happen.
Could fall off tomorrow.
And I don't want to miss out on that guaranteed money. So I'm going to take this contract now. and then see what else comes up if I can renegotiate later when that contract is done. Brenton Doyle just isn't in that same spot because he's older. He's 27 years old. I mean, he's not going to be signing a 12-year deal. He's not going to be signing an 8-year deal. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be signing something around the 6, 7, maybe 8-year range on his part. So it's just, you're getting into the weeds on that kind of stuff, but it is different. And it is something to think about, though, when you have a guy like Chase Dollander, who you hope one day is going to be the future of your franchise, the next guy to get, a really big, like a next pitcher, at least I should say, to get a big contract that we hope in our case. I got to ask the question, though, is because AJ in the chat said Greg Reynolds, all-time Rockies bust. Who's on your list for highest hype coming into their career in the Rockies and biggest bust?
So, I mean, Tulo's got to be the biggest hype. And again, it's one of those where, like, you have the injuries, that's part of the story. You wind up trading him, as the Rockies often do, in part because of the money and all this other stuff.
Sometimes because the player wants to get out.
It's always tough for one of those, like, elite prospects to live up to the hype. Like, Chase Dollander, we're talking like, he's probably, like, realistically the third best prospect the Rockies have ever had. We're all watching him because we think there's a good chance he's the best pitcher the Rockies have ever had. And that's, again, just unrealistic expectation. For Tulo, is he going to be the best shortstop ever? Like, is he just going to show up and be this guy, and you've got the best shortstop in baseball? Exactly.
Of shortstop, yeah.
And because of injuries and stuff, there were, like, the things that happened, and so it didn't really, like, he wasn't that. Like, when people are listing the greatest shortstops of all time, Tulo's name doesn't come up.
Yeah.
But that was just such an unrealistic expectation. It's just also the expectation that comes when you draft a guy that high with that sort of pedigree.
Yeah, I think Brendan Rodgers is probably the guy for me. And this is an interesting one because the hype wasn't as huge with Brendan Rodgers. It was there. I mean, he's a third overall pick of a few years back. He was nominated for a Gold Glove, if I remember correctly. Did he win the Gold Glove?
I thought so.
I think he did. He did win the Gold Glove. I'm trying to remember correctly. Wins a Gold Glove, plays well. But, like, for the third overall draft pick, you just expect more. I mean, he's still a relatively young guy. The Rockies ended up letting him go, like, just full on letting him go. And I know that was kind of controversial, but to me, if you're talking third, I mean, again, Tim Tebow vibes. Tim Tebow got the Broncos to the postseason, but they still let him go after a couple years. Like, he for what he was supposed to be, he didn't become that. Brendan Rodgers felt the exact same thing to me. For what the Rockies expected and also needed him to be, he was never that.
Well, and I think, it's telling. What did he wind up getting? Like $2.5 million a year?
Wait, as
a free agent right now?
Houston, yeah, I think $3 million a
Which,
year.
like, he's going into his age 28
He was supposed
season.
to get like 10 with the Rockies.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the time, I was like, just give him the damn money. Like, what are you doing?
Well, because you're not replacing him with anyone crazy. I mean, and you're paying Tyro Estrada, Kyle Farmer, and Owen Miller, almost the same. I think you're paying them more, actually.
That is true. But at the same time,
you have depth now. That's the difference.
Now you see that, like, baseball teams don't value him the way that we thought they would. And, like, if you're the number 3 overall pick, when you're going to your age 28 season and you're getting $2.5 million on the open market, that's a bust.
That's a bust. Absolutely. Well, and the way I argue this of why the Rockies did that, why not just keep a serviceable guy at second base who can hit a couple home runs each year, be in the middle of your lineup and be totally fine in Brendan Rodgers? It's because the Rockies are not going to the postseason next year.
Yeah.
And if they're going to spend the money, they're spending, I think, $12 million between 3 guys, Estrada, Farmer, and Owen Miller. If you're going to spend that, get the depth that you need to keep the rest of your team healthy by getting a Kyle Farmer who can play anywhere, and Owen Miller who can come up from the minors if needed, and a Tyro Estrada who you're not freaking out about if he does end up getting injured. Get a couple guys like that are kind of expendable, and allow that to keep your main guys healthy. Like, that's the vibe.
And
of
if
why
things
they
don't
did
go
that.
well and Amador is awesome, guess what? You can cut somebody. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Totally. Whereas Brendan Rodgers he just wasn't the future of your team. So that was a tough one, though, because we expected more.
Can I throw a stat at you?
Sure.
1.465 million people watched Bo Nix's first preseason game.
Wow.
1.465.
That's insane.
Dollander wouldn't actually put up those numbers, but it is one of those things.
No, he would not.
No, I mean, it would be like
50,000 Not even. I'm going to way out below that. It's like 10,000 people? Maybe 10,000? It's a spring training game.
And that's like if we really try. Because
I almost showed my purple bias there for a quick moment.
Yep. And sometimes you do have to be realistic about those sorts of things. So it's like
there's a reason TV revenue's down.
Outraged as we all are that the Rockies didn't broadcast, it's how much did we it's insulting to the few of us who
who really care.
I know. But at the same time, I'm not asking set up like a live stream, like just like whatever they cut together those pitches from last night. I don't need a score bug. Have somebody click start button, let me watch, and just give me updated like pitch by pitch so I can follow along with what's happening on a computer on the side. Just give me something.
Anything. Give me anything.
Anything.
Well, German Marquez is on the bump today for the Rockies. I will say, for those of you who are, most of the people who are watching now probably care about the Rockies. Otherwise, if you didn't, I don't know why you watched the rest of the show.
For you.
Not the show for you.
Don't only talk for a bit.
A little bit. The Rockies are playing well in the spring training, which has been exciting. Zach Veen looks really good. Our hitters surprisingly look decent.
Benny Montgomery hype?
Yeah, but a little Benny Montgomery hype, if I could say his name right.
You will soon.
I will. I know.
Be getting some practice.
I've been excited about Tolia. Tolia is looking like a stud, dude.
I'm all in on Tolia.
Yeah.
If there's one guy on this team where it's like he's a guy.
I know.
He is a guy.
I've missed having you on the Rocky spot. Spencer's been doing a great job, but now that we're doing one show a week, we'll do some mini pods together.
I'm down.
Because now that we're in season, we're gonna do some mini pods, and
absolutely,
it's gonna be fun. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. And thank you guys for hanging out with us, for catching the show. As always, follow us on social media, DNVR_sports, and all of our beat accounts. Same thing. Henry Chisholm, Tiff Tano, Christian Saez hanging with you guys. Appreciate all the love. We'll see you next time right here on the Denver Sports Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.